This video is brought to you by Toys-R-Us UK. Use promo code TURTLETALK upon checkout and receive up to 10% off of these selected lines. That's promo code TURTLETALK. Link is in the description. What is going on, toy fan? Project Piper Customs here, and welcome back to a brand new installment of Toy Photography, a beginner's guide. Now, if you're new to toy photography and want to do more with your collection, then this series is just for you. And in today's video, we're going to be looking at another important player in the game of toy photography, and that would be staging. So let's get to it. Now, what do I mean by staging? Well, essentially it means setting the scene with accessories, props and dioramas and diorama pieces. Now, the level of staging will depend on the style of shot you wish to take. For example, if you wish to take a dramatic close-up, then the level of staging isn't going to be very much, as your figure will be the primary centre and fill the scene of your frame. But if the environment does play a key part in the overall story that you're trying to convey with your shot, then the level of staging will increase. Now, you may have heard of these two terms floating about in all walks of life, okay, and those two terms are the devil is in the details and less is more. Now, two very contradicting terms, but two things can be right at the same time, and especially in the case of toy photography, both of those things can apply. And the best way I found to incorporate both of those things into a setup is to just meet down the middle. And we're going to be going over some examples of my previous work where I've encompassed those things, and we'll be having a look at a couple of new setups so you can see as I do them. So let's go. Alright, so that's narration Ben out the way, and now you got me in my rawest form. Okay, so what we got in front of you is, you might recognise it and seen it in a few of my videos, but this right here is a picture of my current setup that I use for reviews and custom cave reveals. Alright, and here we have just three diorama pieces, alright, from two different dioramas that I acquired, and here we're just staging what looks like some sort of back alley loading bay area in the street, okay, some sort of behind a warehouse if you will. Alright, and this is me just taking a shot of it as it is without anything on it, low, good angle, and it's just to demonstrate the stage. Alright, so as you can see, we've got our loading bay door here and some windows here, so this gives the illusion that we're behind a warehouse of some kind. And of course, what do you naturally find behind a warehouse? Rubbish disposal. Okay, so we have our waste bin here. Alright, and it's an accessory I picked up from one of the, I believe it's one of the Gotham Diamond Select figures. I can't remember which one, but I'll pop an image of it here. Okay, so this is just an accessory from that. And this is a good scale, a good size, and it tucks nicely to the side of the wall. Okay, and down the side here we have a couple of crates, one of them being the crate that came with the Capture a Splinter set, and another crate that I printed and folded up myself, just to give the illusion that, you know, there's more than just general waste in this back way. You know, obviously being at a loading bay for a warehouse, they're going to have, you know, just empty crates and all sorts. And of course, going along with that theme, we have a wooden pallet, which a good friend Tom's Dioramas, he made for me as an accessory piece to go along with the first diorama that I bought. Okay, so these are the things that you would naturally find behind this kind of setting. Okay, and this is what staging is all about, is making the environment make sense. Okay, so whatever environment you intend on staging, any props and accessories that you want to add to it, they need to make sense within the scene. It's very easy for any new up and coming toy photographers, especially because I did it myself, to just want to throw everything in that you have. You know, as I said before in the first part, acquiring these pieces is a long-term game. It's an investment, and as you go, you collect more and more in the way of accessories that come with figures. You know, you buy some third-party pieces, you might buy a bundle job lot off eBay. And it's very easy to just want to show it all off in one shot and throw it all in there. But you know, there are, as I said before, there are two different phrases: less is more, and then obviously the other one is devil is in the details, and this is where I meet the middle. Okay, so there's not much in the way of props, but what there is makes sense to the scene. Okay, as you can see also here where we have the general waste, we also have some trash bags and some litter. Okay, so there would be some litter strewn. As you can see here, we've got the Chinese a takeaway pot. We've got a little bit of piece of paper sticking out there, a little bit of fractured wood from the pallet, and then just some general bottles and whatnot here. So this is meeting in the middle of those two contradicting statements. So as you can see, you know, we have some props, not too many, and it makes sense to the scene. And here is a shot using this very setup. Okay, as you can see, we have Deathstroke in the foreground. He is the main focus of the shot, and of course in the background we have the setup that you just saw. All right, but this is kind of the atmosphere I wanted to go for, and the setting that I wanted to go for within this shot, as if he's poised, armed and ready to take on the Batman. Alright, so as you can see with the atmosphere of the shot, obviously you can see the dumpster, the crate, his posing and framing, having him to one side and having the windows sort of be the symmetry. Okay, so let me have my art tool. So obviously he being here and the windows being lit up over this side kind of gives you that sort of balanced symmetry that there's something going on over here, as well as the figure in focus, and the environment is believable. Okay, that's what you really want to do with the staging, is to make the environment, no matter whether it's a dio or if it's without a dio, the environment that you have him in needs to be believable. So if you're staging without a dio and you're using some props, diorama pieces or accessories, obviously they need to sort of fit the scene, and the placement needs to fit the scene as well. Okay, so the environment that he's in is believable, his atmosphere is believable, and of course so is the lighting, and we're going to get into that in the next part. So yeah, this is just an example of this shot being used in this environment. Alright, and we're moving on to this shot now, and here we have Iron Man escaping from the cave and taking out all the insurgents in front of him, replicating that scene from Iron Man 1 in which he's doing the same thing, escaping from the cave and taking out all of the 10 Rings members who have stolen all his weapons. Alright, so as you can see here, we have a lot more than just one figure in the shot. So we have Iron Man himself, and then we have a bunch of army fodder, basically pretty much army builds using the Rick Flag Mattel DC Multiverse figure. Alright, just with different heads on, just to give you some uniform enemies to fight. Alright, so let's break this picture down. As you can see, we have an outdoor setting. I wanted to try and get it as close to the source material as possible, so that this background is actually a paper printout of a cave entrance. And I used some little tiny sandstone gravel as the base. I did my best to blend the two in. There is one area where you can actually see the two edges meet, and but you know, you won't notice it until I point out. So let me just break that magic right now, pull back the curtain, you'll see what I mean. Alright, so right there, and where it meets, you can see the two different shades. So yeah, I got it as close as possible, and for the most part it transitioned quite well. Okay, so as you can see, he's not quite in center, but he is in focus. He is the focal point of the shot. Everyone else is just a background or foreground accessory, if you will. Okay, so let's break it down a bit further. As you can see, this is a custom figure. I used the old Hasbro Iron Man Mark 1, the one they just recently released in the 10th anniversary wave from Marvel Legends, but the first release of it way back in the day, and obviously to spruce it up a little bit. So you can see this missile launching effect right here is a custom piece, but that actually ends about there. Okay, so my explosion effect, I want it to actually just overlap. Okay, so this explosion effect just here. Okay, so it gives the illusion that the missile is launching a bit further into frame, exploding, sending these guys out of the frame. All right, now with this guy up here, who's flying in the air, he's on a metal wire stand, homemade one. I just bent some a metal coat hanger around just so I can have him propping up, and that actually arcs around and to about there, with this guy right here hiding it. Okay, so it's all about placement in terms of this setup and staging. It's all about placement. So I've hidden his flight stand behind this guy. Okay, and he himself, as you can see, he's at a flying angle. His flight stand is just off camera. All right, so just about here is where it meets, and it's just out of frame. Okay, so it doesn't need to be fully in frame, just enough so you can see what's going on for him and the guy behind. Okay, so it gives you the illusion that a lot of stuff's going on over here, and then over this side. Okay, we have the homemade fire effect here, and I wanted that to blend in because that ends about there. So I used the Tamashii Nations fire effects, the explosion effects, as you can see. There's even a little bit down there, stacked up to here, and that's just helping blend in this fire effect. Okay, so it gives you the illusion that he's causing chaos over in this section too. All right, as you can see, we have the barrel. There's just a bit of added, ancillary drama. Being knocked out the way by the explosion as well, and then we have these three guys. Okay, so as you can see, I wanted these guys real low down. Okay, I need them low so that Iron Man could be more in the shot. Alright, so I had to get them right down low and pretty much manipulate the legs until they were just as low as I can possibly get them. Okay, with one standing up and then one just at the side, so you give you a feel that there's more, there's quite a few people in the frame. But I needed something for them to crouch behind, and also just covers up majority of the base, so it wasn't that obvious that the transition wasn't as good as what I wanted to in terms of the shade tone of the stones compared to the backdrop. So the more of the base, the ground and the gravel that was covered up, the better. Alright, so as you can see here, if I pull away, you can see we've got some ammo crates and some machine gun rifle carry cases. Okay, and that makes sense to the scene, because obviously in the scene all the 10 Rings members have been using his weapons, and there's lots of ammunitions and cases of guns and all that lying around. So these props in particular made sense to the scene, and also acted as something for the insurgents to hide behind, the enemy, and also helps cover the base as much as possible. So they serve three functions within this shot. Okay, and as you can see down here, we have a little tiny ammo box, and that's just helping give you a better view there. And basically where the explosion effect met the base, there was a little bit of a gap. It wasn't sitting flush, so that little ammunition box is just there to cover it up, adds a little bit more variety to the scene. It's like a little Easter egg. Okay, so yeah, this is kind of how you incorporate more than one figure, well placed props to help make the scene make sense. Alright, and moving on to the next shot, and we have Blade, Wesley Snipes' Blade from Blade 2 to be precise. Okay, so the idea behind this shot is that Scud, his sidekick from that movie, has been captured, and Blade coming in like the hero he is to save the day. Okay, now this is an example of not having much in the way of props for the staging, but more of a mishmash of diorama pieces. Okay, so if I pull into my artist tab here, okay, so basically we have this side wall here is a piece from a separate diorama, just the flooring of something I had made. This part right here, this back wall, is literally just a piece of thin foam painted grey. It's a great surface base, and I'll get into that in a little side note video. Over here we have the side wall from another diorama that I have as a little control box, and of course down here on the base right here is a nice little tiled floor base that I put together myself. So it all combines into what looks like some sort of dingy, grungy chamber that one wouldn't like to be held prisoner in. Okay, so yeah, putting all these together just gave you that idea, and that's a great thing about dioramas. You can pull them apart and put them back together like a jigsaw puzzle in different ways to create different environments. Okay, so it's good to have a little, if you're in the market for dioramas, as I say, they are inexpensive. Okay, it's an investment, but if you have some yourself already, or if you're a maker, or if you're interested in making them, it's good to have a different variety of different pieces so you can create different environments. Alright, so that is the diorama, that is the setting. Okay, so let's get into the action. Obviously, as you can see here, we are using I forget which company it is, I don't know if it's McFarlane or Select, but basically we have the Norman Reedus' Daryl from The Walking Dead, and his character pretty much looks exactly the same as his character Scud in Blade 2, so this figure worked a treat in making the Scud, but he is a very tall figure, okay, much taller than the Mezco Blade, so I'm using a bit of forced perspective here with the low camera angle and the Dutch angle itself as well, to give the illusion that he's not that much taller than Blade himself, and Blade's in a crouching pose, so if he was to stand up, the height difference, you wouldn't notice it. Okay, this sells. with the low angle and the Dutch angle, it gives you the illusion that Mr. Scud over here isn't that tall, or as tall as Blade. Okay, and we got Blade here in a heroic pose, crouched down, just delivered a deadly strike, and down here is our vampire victim, which was a little custom piece I made from a little Halloween skeleton, and the bottom half of Nathan Drake from NECA. Poor bugger. Alright, so yeah, so here we have I would say the vampire is in focus, but he's in the forefront. Okay, he's in the forefront. Blade is the figure in focus, but what he's doing is in the forefront. So you can automatically see that Blade is right here, and you can immediately see what he's doing, and then your eye is drawn to what else is going on within the shot, which is obviously Scud being tied up. Okay, so we got this little chain and bracket around him. Okay, and then just to give the illusion of some symmetry and to help fill the area in terms of props, prop wise we have this little piece right here, which is actually from the Collect and Connect Batfleck grapple gun that came with the early editions of the Mattel DC multiverse from like Batman vs Superman. Okay, this is a piece of that, and that's just standing up in the corner simulating some sort of just industrial piping that's coming out of the wall. Okay, so I thought that fit pretty well in there. And of course, for the symmetry over on this side, okay, I added a little stool that's been tipped over. The stool that Scud has been sitting on as he's been chained up, and of course as Blade's come in to save the day, he stood up in amazement and kicked the stool over, and of course we've got a little bit of blood right there from the attack. Okay, and this just gives a little bit of colour, a little bit of variety on the floor. As you see, we've got a shiny floor piece, and yeah, so all of this sort of makes sense now. Okay, we have our symmetry. Okay, we have our force perspective. You can clearly see what's going on within the shot. Blade still in focus, right there, being the hero that he is. And yeah, along with the lighting, and you got yourself a nice little shot. Alright, and the last image we're going to be looking at in this little portion of deconstructing my own work is this one. And you might be thinking, hold on Ben, you did something like this in part 3 with the Shredder and Foot Soldiers, and you would be right. But in fact I did this shot before that one. That shot in part 3 was actually was with the same idea but a different take on it. Just playing with the Secret of the Used Shredder, and I love army building the foot in any sort of picture. But yeah, so this one, the reason why I wanted to bring this one up is purely because this is a good demonstration of staging, but not with accessories and dios such as obviously what you can see in the picture. There's not much of it, but staging with figures, and more specifically figure placement and their posing. Alright, so this is a good look at that, and we're going to open my artist tab right now, and we're going to get straight into it. Now, as you can see, this is at a Dutch angle, which is obviously again sideways angle, so I'm having to play with the corner axis, and as obviously Shredder's a big dude with a big helmet, I needed to have him as much of him in frame as possible, so I had to put him over here. Okay, so I could get his big helmet in and keep him contained. Alright, and as you can see, I've got him looking at his giant dandelion. But with the foot soldiers in particular, and this one, I wanted hustle and bustle. Okay, I wanted them all look lively, like they're doing something, preparing for their next mission perhaps. Okay, so I've got them all here doing different things. I've got this guy here, he's off to the toilet. You got this guy over here, he's being distracted, maybe one of the others is showing him a Playboy. Obviously this one here is hoping that he doesn't get, he did good by Shredder, master is pleased. This guy right here, deciding on which weapon to use, decisions, and of course this guy right here just walking off because we needed something to fill this area of dead space. Okay, and we know with all of these figures I wanted to try and get as many foot soldiers into the picture as possible, but also not overdo it, so that you can actually see distinctively where each one is. Let me get rid of that. Okay, so like I say, you've got this guy in the corner here, which is filling in this area. He's walking off. You've got obviously this one here, Shredder being the main focus, of course. Alright, right here in the center. So he is in the main focus. I wouldn't say center, he's more to the side. Obviously we have this guy right here, who's obviously, as I said before, part of the main sort of story I want to convey. He's the one that brought the dandelion to Shredder, hoping he doesn't get punished. We obviously have this one right here, who's in frame. looking at the weapons rack, obviously, which makes having the weapons rack there, giving it a purpose. This one over here filling in this area dead space, but also looking lively. And of course, as I said before, again, this guy right here, which is again filling in this area of dead space. And yeah, you don't need to see him fully in frame, but you can just tell, having him in the foreground, that he's there and he's moving, and the whole picture looks busy. Okay, so let me get rid of all of this so you can see it all again proper. Alright, so the photo itself, there's a lot of activity going on. There's always something going on within the shot. Your eye is still drawn to Shredder and what he's doing. Okay, and you've got that sense of depth with all the foot soldiers that are clearly visible, but in different areas of the shot. Okay, you know, so you've got some over here, you've got some right at the back, you've got some right up close, and you've got some in the middle. You're covering those three areas: back, middle, front. Alright, and this whole shot is demonstrating how you can do quite a lot with very little. As I say, in the way of diode pieces, all I'm really using again is my corrugated siding, which I talked about in part 3, the weapons rack, which came with the Foot Soldier 2-pack, and of course the dandelion is obviously the handmade accessory, but they're the only pieces that are there. All of the staging and all of the placement is done purposefully to fill the scene and stage it, so it makes it believable in the environment that they're in. Alright, which is some sort of industrial hideout, which is of course where they are in the second movie. Alright, so let's go over it again. As you can tell, we have posing and framing, which plays into staging. You seeing how it all ties together? Alright, we're doing quite a lot with very little, and it's the posing that they're in that is selling the staging and their placement. Alright, so there's not really an area of dead space, and the whole picture looks lively. It looks busy, but again, your eye is drawn straight to Shredder and what he is doing. Alright, and all of it is contained. So this is an example, prime example, and why I saved it for last, of encompassing everything that we've spoken about up until this point. Alright, and now we're going to move on to another example, but this time it'll be full behind the scenes of a new setup. So let's go. And here we have Peter B. Parker, okay, and he's enjoying the morning sun on a balcony in the city. We have a vertical setup, and let's pull away and have a look. Okay, as you can see him standing there. Now I've got this sort of rooftop city diorama sort of thing, not really much going on apart from these two pieces right here. We have the water tower, and then of course we have this sort of a stairwell. We have our lights, but yes, this stairwell here, it's kind of like a, you know, the doorway entrance up to the rooftop as a separate piece. We got him there sitting on top of an action figure box to help boost him into frame a little bit. I wanted him lower than obviously the figure himself, because he wanted the figure to seem like he's high up that the building is in. And we've got the water tower being propped up by another diorama piece, which I was not able to get in frame, so that's just higher than the little outbuilding here. Okay, love that corrugated roof, and gives a nice rooftop feel. And here we have Peter B. Parker chilling with his sippy cup. Okay, and this is kind of it. It's just a simple setup, nothing too crazy with props, but you know, a few diorama pieces. We have our sky blue paper poster board, paper card at the back simulating the sky with the lighting. And yeah, with what I have in terms of diorama pieces, which isn't much, I was able to create this sort of, you know, little bit of a rooftop scene, and with him overlooking, trying to see what he wants to do for the rest of the day. So we've got a couple of lights illuminating the backdrop. We've got this one here, which is actually keeping the diorama piece upright, and also casting a bit of downlight onto Peter himself, serving, you know, killing two birds with one stone. And yeah, just a nice, simple, clean setup is all I was going for. But you can tell the staging is all there, the focus on the figure is all there. We've got a camera angle, his pose as if he's stretching, enjoying the morning sun, and that's all you need. And there you have it, folks, a good look at how the devil is in the details, but less is still more. Alright, and how that interweaves with your posing and your framing in order for staging to set the scene and make your environment believable. And that is it for this episode. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this one, because we've got a big one in part 6 and you don't want to miss out on that. And if you definitely want to stick around for that, or check out more of the previous episodes, now I really would like it if you could hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and turn on post notifications. Leave a comment in the comment section if you want me to elaborate any more, or go over anything that I've spoken about in this video or prior ones, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And yeah, that is it, guys. Thank you again. Hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.